beginning.
Indonesia will eliminate tariffs on over 99% of U.S. goods and scrap non-tariff barriers for companies. Now, Trump also announced a trade deal with the Philippines after meeting with his Philippine counterpart at the White House. Jim Spellman reports from Washington, D.C.
Úgy érzem, a köszönésekkel kellene kezdenünk.
Semmi gond. Nézzük tehát, mi a feladatunk mára. A mai tanulnivalóink.
Ni hao.
Jó napot! Szia!
你叫什么名字？
Hogy hívnak?
这是我的名片。
Ez a névjegykártyám.
好久不见。
Rég nem láttalak.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and later with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth on Monday. At the Pentagon, both sides reaffirmed commitment to the U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty.
And this pact extends to armed attacks on our armed forces, aircraft, or public vessels, including our Coast Guard. Anywhere in the Pacific, including the South China Sea.
That drew a response from Beijing.
美国和菲律宾之间
Cooperation between the U.S. and the Philippines should not target or harm the interests of any third party, nor should it provoke confrontation or escalate regional tensions.
对抗。
The Philippines takes over the rotating chairmanship of the Regional Economic Group ASEAN in 2026. At the White House Tuesday, Marcos says he sees no conflict in having good relations with both China and the United States.
Was Jim Spellman reporting. European leaders say they hope to reach a fair agreement with the U.S. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is one of them.
Im Zollstreit mit den USA nähern wir uns jetzt der entscheidenden.
We are approaching the divisive phase in the customs dispute with the U.S. We need a fair, reliable agreement with low tariffs. This trade policy between partners, America and Europe, must strengthen the transatlantic market and not weaken it. Otherwise, this dispute will cause even greater damage than it already has, especially for customers on both sides of the Atlantic.
The French Industry and Energy Minister Marc Ferracci vowed countermeasures if a deal cannot be reached.
We specifically emphasize that if any agreement cannot be reached before August the 1st, a series of countermeasures must be promptly initiated. This includes the European Commission imposing additional tariffs on U.S. products totaling over 90 billion euros, alongside the deployment of previously unused tools, particularly the anti-coercion instrument. This non-tariff instrument encompasses measures export controls, restrictions on online advertising for digital platforms, and other essential countermeasures. The objective is to establish a more resolute and credible negotiating stance.
The minister also said the EU-U.S. negotiations over the past 3 months have yielded no results, and the U.S. stance has become tougher. U.S. President Donald Trump announced 30% tariffs on EU products starting August the 1st. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney called trade negotiations with the U.S. complex, vowing to protect his people's interests.
But, they're complex negotiations, and we use all the time that's necessary. And agree something that's in the interest of Canadians, if that's available.
Trump announced 35% starting August the 1st. The Trump administration's announced that the U.S. will once again withdraw from the UN Cultural Agency. UNESCO Director General Audrey Azoulay described the move as regrettable.
regrets President Donald Trump's decision to once again withdraw the United States of America from UNESCO, a decision that will take effect at the end of December 2026. This decision contradicts the fundamental principle of multilateralism. And we are first and foremost our main partners in the United States of America.
The UNESCO chief added that the U.S. withdrawal is unsurprising. The financial impact will be limited. The U.S. State Department said Washington made the decision due to what it saw as UNESCO's policy to advance divisive social and cultural causes over the Israel-Palestine conflict. The UNESCO chief said Washington's claims contradict the reality of the agency's efforts. Now, this is the third time that the U.S. has left UNESCO and the second time under President Donald Trump. The administration announced withdrawal from the Paris Agreement on climate change, the World Health Organization, and the UN Human Rights Council since Trump began his second term. Coming up, the UN condemns Israeli airstrikes that hit UN facilities in Gaza.
You're listening to the Beijing Hour. 60 minutes of comprehensive news. Your window on China and the world.
23 past the hour. The UN Secretary General has condemned Israeli strikes that hit UN facilities in Gaza, including a warehouse used by the World Health Organization. Antonio Guterres made the remarks during a high-level debate at the UN Security Council. Mitch McCann reports from New York.
The World Health Organization says its staff and their families were endangered when Israel attacked its staff quarters in Gaza, causing a fire and extensive damage. The WHO also says several of its staff members were handcuffed, stripped and interrogated on the spot. The WHO added that its main warehouse in Gaza was damaged on Sunday in an attack that triggered explosions and sparked a fire inside. Speaking at the UN...
对，还挺好玩。这是餐厅服务员在鱼类观赏区抓河豚，让顾客触摸它鼓鼓的肚子。4月河豚每一家门店都有这种河豚观赏区域。2017年1月，4月河豚在京西五棵松开了第一家门店。由于大受欢迎，也坚定了杨子苏坚持创业的信心。
انا حضرت تليفون كمان عزیز شما میتونیم که با استفاده از این روش ها مصارف زندگی خودم کاهش بدیم و صرفه‌جویی بکنیم و وقتی در هزینه
调温的这条新闻，不少网友都。
而国铁广州局的动车组每列动车组安排了随车的。